And we are live for Thursday night football. We got an actual banger of a game tonight between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens. It's going to be a fun one. Divisional game, Lamar Jackson versus Joe Burrow tonight. The Ravens are at home. They are 4-point underdogs in this one. I think it could be a pretty high scoring game. It is time to talk about the game tonight. Get to some of these Thursday night start sits. Of course, do you start Tyler Boyd? Do you start Odell Beckham Jr.? Do you stash Odell Beckham Jr.? A lot of interesting guys in the mix tonight. Let me get this banner going at the bottom of the YouTube Live. We're live on TikTok. We are live on YouTube. All right. I do think Tyler Boyd is a decent start tonight, a pretty high floor. I don't know how high the ceiling truly is. I do not feel that great about Joe Mixon tonight. He's playing a very, very elite Baltimore Ravens run defense. Their run defense is even better than their pass defense. They are also without their top corner, Marlon Humphrey, tonight. The Bengals have been passing near the highest rate in the league. That hasn't been great news for Joe Mixon. We've only seen two running backs this season go over 20 points against the Ravens. That was Jahmyr Gibbs back in week 7, Zach Moss back in week 2. Zach Moss had 30 carries in that game. Jahmyr Gibbs had 9 receptions in that game where he went over 20 points. Joe Mixon's not doing either of those things tonight. I think it's a pretty low ceiling, low floor night for Joe Mixon tonight. I'm actually pretty surprised how high his over-unders are on the prop line. That's not the free player prop of the night, but I would look to bench Joe Mixon where possible. I'd start guys like Tony Pollard over him this week. I think starting Keaton Mitchell over Joe Mixon, that's getting pretty spicy. I'm not sure if I'd go that far, but I do think Keaton Mitchell and Joe Mixon are relatively on the same tier tonight. I have a feeling Walter's going to disagree with me on this one, but I would be fine if you're feeling like you want the upside going with Keaton Mitchell over Joe Mixon. And Mitchell actually does have a higher boom percentage. Walter agrees with that, at least, that the ceiling for Keaton Mitchell is higher than the ceiling for Joe Mixon. The floor is probably a bit higher for Joe Mixon than it is Keaton Mitchell. But, man, I'm excited to watch Keaton Mitchell tonight. I do think he actually does get more involved. They said that before last game and didn't come to fruition. Only 3 carries. The dude is averaging over 10 yards per touch this season. He has a lot of Devon Achane vibes to him. So, yeah, I'm okay starting Keaton Mitchell tonight. I think him over Joe Mixon is something I would consider. Are you going for the ceiling or do you want to lock in the floor? The floor comes with Joe Mixon. Mixon does not have the ceiling that Keaton Mitchell has in this game tonight. I don't want anything to do with Irwin. No thank you to Irwin tonight. I think Curtis Samuel's fine. Lamar or Stroud, that's a close one. Goff or Lamar. I'm definitely going Lamar over Goff. Lamar versus Stroud is close. I think I'd probably go Lamar there too, though. Yeah, you got to go Lamar, guys. You got to play Lamar Jackson tonight, basically over everybody. You're playing him over everybody but Pat Mahomes. Maybe I could see an argument for Hurts over him. The rushing is just too elite. Lamar's averaging like 75 rushing yards per game against the Bengals in his career. Absolutely insane number. Start Keaton, Singletary, or Gabe Davis. It's Keaton tonight, Jesse. I would start Keaton over Gabe Davis. So let me turn off subscriber-only chat mode here on the TikTok Live. Everybody can chat on the TikTok Live. We'll turn on the subscriber-only chat mode later in the live stream. So who would I start Keaton Mitchell over? Yeah, so let me rattle off some names here of guys that I would start Keaton Mitchell over. And again, I'm a guy that likes to chase upside. That's historically my MO. That's what I like to do in life, just in general. I would start Keaton Mitchell over Gus Edwards for that exact reason. I would start him over Gerald Henderson. I think I'd start him over Khalil Herbert, Jalen Warren, Najee Harris. Jalen Warren's close. I think I would start him over Najee Harris, though. I'm fine starting Keaton Mitchell over Ty Chandler, Antonio Gibson. Picked up an injury midweek. I'd be okay starting Keaton Mitchell over him. Tiaje Spears, that one's pretty close. I think I'd go Keaton Mitchell there. I would start Jerome Ford over Keaton Mitchell. I'd probably go Keaton Mitchell over Chuba Hubbard. I think I'd play him over Isaiah Pacheco, too. I don't think you can start Isaiah Pacheco this week against the Eagles. That's probably where I would draw the line. I think I would start Devin Singletary over Keaton. Assuming Dameon Pierce doesn't play, I actually think I would go Devin Singletary over Keaton Mitchell after the usage for him last week. Start Zay over Hollywood. No, I would not do that. Flowers or Hopkins. Yeah, that one's pretty close. There's going to be a lot of Zay Flowers questions tonight, I'm sure. Let's pull up the game logs here for Zay. He has been a little bit disappointing of late. Zay Flowers does not have a game over 15 points since week 6. Odell Beckham Jr. has been the primary red zone target for Lamar. Zay only has 1 touchdown this season. These two teams played each other, by the way, back in week 2. Zay Flowers had not even 11 points in that game. I don't think he's a must start. I wouldn't shove Zay Flowers into your lineup. I would play the Commanders defense over the Ravens defense for sure. The Bengals offense is going to put up points, even though this Ravens defense is really, really good. And the Commanders get the Giants. I mean, it's the best possible matchup for defenses right now. Gus or Henderson? I'd go Henderson. I want nothing to do with Gus tonight, really. I've been a pretty big Gus hater, I feel like, for a while in fantasy because he doesn't catch passes. He needs touchdowns. And he's in the 3-way backfield with Lamar Jackson included on top of that. So I'm not very interested in Gus. He has scored a lot of touchdowns this season. He's proved me wrong week after week. I don't love him in the spot tonight, though, here against the Bengals. Lamar or Stroud, you got to start Lamar, guys. You absolutely need to start starting Lamar. You have to start Burrow as well, even in a difficult matchup. Stroud is in play, I think, versus Burrow. Let's see what Walter has to say about that one on YouTube Live. Burrow versus Stroud. Yeah, I think I would go Stroud over Burrow. This is a very difficult matchup here for Burrow. The Ravens defense allowing the second fewest points per game to quarterbacks. Let me rattle off some of the quarterbacks they played for you and how they've done. Stroud played them back in week 1. He only had 10 points. Joe Burrow in week 2, he finished that game with 17 points. He did throw 2 touchdowns. That was the second best game we've seen against the Ravens this season, was Burrow back in week 2. The best game was Josh Dobbs with 24 points back in week 8. Jared Goff did nothing against them. They really haven't played very many good quarterbacks. Deshaun did okay with 17 points last week as he battled through an injury in that game too. So yeah, I think I would go Stroud over Burrow given the matchup, but I do think it's pretty close just in general. Hey, Sam, Mixon or Ty Chandler? Yeah, I would go Mixon in that one. I don't feel great about Mixon tonight in the matchup, but I certainly don't feel amazing about Ty Chandler either. Is Jahan Dotson worth a start this week? He's as boom and bust as it gets. So if you're comfortable with boom bust, then yes, he is startable. So Burrow over Goff. Yeah, Goff does have a much better matchup than Burrow this week, but I think I would go Burrow over Goff. I see this Lions team running a lot this week against the Bears. Javonte or Boyd, thanks, Sam. Yeah, I'd go Javonte, especially half PPR. A whole point for first down reception. That is very interesting, Robbie. That's a very interesting scoring setting there. But yeah, I think I would go with Javonte over Boyd, and I wouldn't be surprised if Javonte has as many first down receptions as Boyd. Dak or Mahomes, you cannot bench Mahomes this week. Absolutely not. Keaton Mitchell or Thielen? Oh, man. I think you kind of have to play Thielen. I'm so nervous for the entire Panthers offense, though. I think it's not that unreasonable to go Keaton Mitchell there with how the Panthers offense looked against the Bears. They're going to struggle big time against the Panthers. Let's pull up the Keaton Mitchell game logs here again on the YouTube Live. I really hope they play this guy more. They're saying they're going to play him more. He's got a touchdown in back-to-back games. He's averaging over 10 yards a carry. I would start Brian Robinson over Mixon for sure. Mitchell or Ty Chandler. I think I would go Keaton Mitchell over Ty Chandler. The free player prop of the day, seeing some people ask for this already in the live. We missed on the Tony Pollard touchdown prop. It was like Tony Pollard was trying not to score a few times in that game. He came inches close to his first touchdown since week 1. But we're still 18-5 on the free player props. And today's free player prop is Jamar Chase over 80.5 receiving yards. If you're watching live on TikTok, this is from the player prop evaluator in the Walter Picks app. Guys, check out the Walter Picks app. If you haven't yet, it's in the YouTube description. It's in the TikTok bio. Jamar Chase going over 80.5 receiving yards today. Jamar Chase battling through an injury last week. Let me put the game logs on the YouTube Live here for Jamar Chase too. Battling through an injury, Jamar Chase still managed to finish that game with 124 receiving yards. He still ran a route on 98% of the dropbacks for Joe Burrow. He clearly wasn't fully healthy, though. A season low 6 targets for him didn't matter. 5 catches, 124 yards, and a TD. I think he's going to be very needed tonight in a game that the Ravens are going to be leading. And the Ravens are also without their top corner in Marlon Humphrey. Book Jamar Chase for a big game, at least a big usage game. I do like him over 80 receiving yards. That is the free player prop of the day. All right, let's get back to some of these comments. Look at these game logs here from Jamar Chase. Absolutely elite stuff for Jamar. Hey, Sam, happy Thursday night football. Jacobs or Keaton? Andrew, happy Thursday night football. We got a legitimate great game tonight. We kind of half jokingly said banger of a game the last few Thursdays. Last Thursday, we were watching the Panthers and the Bears, and tonight we get the Bengals and the Ravens. I mean, talk about two complete opposite games I would go Jacobs over Keaton Mitchell. I'm excited for Keaton Mitchell. I am. I do think we got to be a little careful not to get ahead of ourselves, though, especially in spots like this. Jacobs' usage has been very, very elite. I'm definitely starting Jacobs over Keaton Mitchell. What do you think about I give CMC and Justin Jefferson and Keenan Allen? Oh, my God, I hate the start here for Achane, Eckler, CeeDee Lamb, and A.J. Brown. Oh, my gosh. That actually is a pretty good trade, I feel like, for you. If I'm trading away Christian McCaffrey, I better be getting Austin Eckler in return. I think that's pretty much the only scenario where I'm comfortable trading CMC is if I'm getting Eckler, because I think there's a real argument for Eckler over CMC rest of the season when you look at their two schedules and the usage. Eckler is seeing CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, comparable to Jefferson and Keenan, and then you get Achane too. I'm okay with that. That's a pretty crazy trade. Tua or Burrow, big decision for first in the league. Yeah, that one's really close, I think. Let me pull up the QB rankings here. Burrow is definitely in play tonight. It's a tough matchup, no doubt, for Joe Burrow tonight, though. I would go Burrow over Tua. I would. The matchup for Tua is honestly not that great either. He gets the Raiders. They definitely could run a lot in that game. They're big favorites. At least Burrow is an underdog tonight. I do think Burrow still throws the ball a lot tonight. The Bengals have been passing near the top of the league in terms of pass rate. I actually think they're number one in pass rate over expectation this season. It's a scary matchup. The Thursday Night Football stat I got for you guys tonight is the Ravens. They're allowing just 1.2 points per possession. That is the least points per possession in the NFL. AKA, the Ravens have had the best defense in the NFL. It hasn't been the Browns. It hasn't been the 49ers. It hasn't been the Cowboys. It's been the Ravens. In terms of points allowed per possession, Ravens have been the most efficient defense in the entire league. But they're also without their top corner tonight in Marlon Humphrey. And they're also going against a really pass-heavy Bengals team. So I'm still okay starting Joe Burrow. I'm still okay starting Jamar Chase. Those are the only two Bengals I'm truly comfortable starting, though, tonight in fantasy. I think starting Singletary over Mixon is not that unreasonable. I would probably lean that way. Sam, Zay Flowers, James Cook, Nico Collins, or fall for the Ridley trap once again this week. Yeah, Brad, we are in a brutal spot, man, with Calvin Ridley. Absolutely brutal, where you just know the week you leave him on your bench, he's actually going to pop off for 80 yards and a touchdown, because Ridley absolutely still has that in him, but you can't start him, I don't think, over any of these guys. If Nico is back, I think the answer here is Nico. I think it's okay to hold out hope for Nico Collins, bench Zay Flowers tonight. I don't think Zay Flowers is a must start tonight by any means. I have Mitchell and Mixon. Which one should I start? Yes, we were talking about this at the top of the stream. And honestly, I think this is probably the question of the night. Joe Mixon versus Keaton Mitchell. And it really comes down to what type of person are you? What type of risk tolerance do you have? Because if you ask me, my risk tolerance is pretty high. I am willing to take big risks that I think have big rewards. And Keaton Mitchell is a big risk that has a very, very big reward. We're talking the Devon Achane type of reward. If this guy just gets a few more touches, just a little bit more usage, guys, people cannot touch this guy. He's too fast. There was legitimate 80-yard plays from Keaton Mitchell where he was not touched in actual NFL games. That's how fast this guy is. He ran a blazing 99th percentile 40-yard dash at the combine. He then goes undrafted and somehow falls in the hands of the Ravens. His ceiling is higher than Joe Mixon's, no doubt, tonight. Joe Mixon, on the other side of this game, he gets a matchup with the Ravens, whose run defense is top 3 in the NFL. I think the Eagles probably have the number 1 run defense, but the Bengals are right up there in terms of the elite run defenses in the league. And we've only seen 2 running backs this entire season go over 20 points against the Ravens. And both of those were pretty big anomalies. One of them was Zach Moss, a week where he had 30 carries, which Joe Mixon is not getting. He has not had that in a single game this whole year, not even close. And then another one of those, the second one, was Jahmyr Gibbs, who had 9 receptions on 10 targets. Joe Mixon's not doing that either. So his ceiling is below 20 points tonight, if you ask me. Joe Mixon is not going over 20 points, almost definitely. Keaton Mitchell, though, there's at least a story you could tell for Keaton Mitchell getting over 20 points. A couple of big plays, 2 touchdowns. Absolutely, it's possible. Personally, I'm playing Keaton Mitchell over Joe Mixon. But if you do want to just lock in 10 PPR points, there's not very many better players in the NFL right now than Joe Mixon at that. His usage has been pretty consistent. It will be consistent tonight. He probably will touch the ball between 15 and 20 times. He'll probably end with between 5 and like 12 and a half PPR fantasy points, but it's not going to be much more than that. So yeah, that's why I would go Keaton Mitchell, because I like big rewards that even if they come with big risks. Joe Burrow or Tua? Yeah, Alex, I'm going Burrow over Tua. I think Burrow is a fine start tonight. There's a lot of guys I would start over Burrow. Let me rattle off some of the QBs I would start over Joe Burrow, because I am seeing a bunch of Joe Burrow questions. I would start Kyler Murray over Joe Burrow this week. I would start Justin Herbert over him. I would start Joshua Dobbs over Joe Burrow. I would start CJ Stroud, Dak Prescott, Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy. I'm starting all those guys over Joe Burrow. I would start Josh Allen and Lamar over Joe Burrow too, but I'm not gonna bench Joe Burrow for Russell Wilson. I'm not gonna bench him for Sam Howell. I'm not gonna bench him for Jared Goff. I'm not benching Joe Burrow for Tua. I'm not benching him for Jordan Love, despite the good matchup. So that's the line I'm drawing. I would start Joe Burrow over Tua this week. The matchup is really not that great for Tua. That game could be really, really run heavy. Sam, what's the prop for the night? Yeah, Jake, we missed on Sunday. We did. One of the 5 misses of the season, but we're still 18-5. And we're going with Jamar Chase over 80.5 receptions here. Over 80.5 receiving yards is the free player prop of the night. Lock this one in, guys. He was not fully healthy last week. I do think he'll be healthier in this game. And he only had six targets, a season low. 6 targets for Jamar Chase in their last game. Finishes the game, 5 catches, 124 yards. This is exactly what Jamar Chase can do. And in this game, the Bengals are 4-point underdogs in Baltimore. The Ravens are without their top corner. They have one of the top run defenses in the league. The Bengals have been one of the most pass-heavy teams in the NFL. On top of that, you got to expect significant volume coming to Jamar Chase tonight. I think he goes over 100 total yards tonight. I think the Ravens win, by the way, and that's part of the reason I like this prop. I think the Bengals will have to be playing from behind. Even if the Bengals are playing from ahead, I expect significant pass volume from Joe Burrow. Another reason I would play Joe Burrow over Tua, despite a tough matchup against a very good Ravens defense. Again, I had this stat up earlier, but the Ravens defense is allowing the fewest points per possession in the NFL. No defense is allowing less points per possession than the Ravens. They've been the best defense in the league, if you look at it by this metric. But again, they're without their top corner. The Bengals are extremely pass heavy. I still think it's okay to start Burrow and Chase. Those are the only 2 Bengals I feel very comfortable starting tonight. I think it's okay to consider starting Mixon. I think it's okay to consider starting Tyler Boyd, who was targeted significantly last week, and T. Higgins is out again tonight. So you got to expect Tyler Boyd to be pretty involved. I don't think the ceiling is that exciting for Tyler Boyd, but I feel okay about his floor. He's going to be out there almost every single snap. He's going to run around in almost every single drop back. He had a 31% target share last week at 100 air yards, too. These were not shallow targets. He was getting 8 catches, 170 yards, no touchdown last week. Definitely he's in play tonight if you need a PPR wide receiver. QB start, Stroud or Lamar. Yeah, you absolutely cannot be benching Lamar Jackson tonight. Unless you have Patrick Mahomes, you need to start Lamar Jackson. That's pretty much the only guy I'm starting over Lamar. I think you could argue for Jalen Hurts, but man, the Chiefs defense has actually been really, really good against quarterbacks this season. So I think there's even an argument for Lamar over Jalen Hurts. And yeah, I'm playing Lamar over CJ Stroud. And I know CJ Stroud's got a good matchup tonight, a matchup this week, but Lamar really is an elite rushing potential tonight. And this is one of the few games you could really see the Ravens get pushed offensively. Maybe they won't be able to lean as heavily on the run if the Bengals can succeed in a pass-heavy game and Lamar has the ball in his hands more. We could see QB1 week here from Lamar. Definitely it's in the cards. I think you got to start Lamar. Pollard or Achane? Yeah, so guys, we can't be benching Devon Achane this week. I'm not doing it. You will not find me do it. If I have Achane in a league, I'm finding a spot for Devon Achane. We've seen it enough, I think, this season. And it's certainly a little sketchy in his first game back. No doubt. It's a little sketchy. There's a chance they limit him a little bit. They want to be cautious. They've been cautious, though. This is the thing that gives me confidence about Devon Achane in his first game back. He has not played since week 5. He really only needed 2 or 3 weeks from this injury on average that he was dealing with. They gave him a full 5 weeks to come back from this injury. They've already reported he's going to play. And guys, let's not forget what we saw Devon Achane do. I know it was a little bit ago, a little over a month now, a month and a half ago, last time we saw Devon Achane play. But man, he ripped off 51 points, 27 points, 22 points. He has not finished worse than RB5 in each of his last 3 games. He leads all running backs in points per game. Do not bench Devon Achane. He'll definitely be in my do not bench video on TikTok this week. Boyd or Rashee Rice. Yeah, that one's close. There is some potential scary weather in that Chiefs game. I think I'd probably go Rice, though, still. I would play James Conner over Keaton Mitchell. Lamar or Howie, you got to go Lamar. Zay or Kirk, I would go Kirk over Zay. What's your thoughts on DJ Moore rest of season? I'm very bullish on DJ Moore rest of season now that Justin Fields is back. You look at the splits, man, between when DJ Moore had Justin Fields and when DJ Moore had Tyson Bagent. And I know there's a couple outlier huge games there with Fields, but the splits are astronomically wide. It's crazy. DJ Moore basically a top 5 wide receiver in games with Fields and outside the top 35 wide receivers with Tyson Bagent. So yeah, I'm bullish on him rest of the season. Big man Sam, I made it. Tough trade question. Xavier, good to see you in the live, man. I have Dak locked for first round bye. Trade Hill for Lamb to complete the stack. Lamb has significantly better playoff matchups. This is a very, very interesting question. And if you're locked for the first round bye in your fantasy league, man, you are sitting good. And you absolutely need to take advantage of the position you're in because not everybody can. And it really is a great position to be in. And yeah, you look at these matchups for CeeDee Lamb, a matchup against the Bills in week 15, a game where they're playing an offense that legitimately could keep up with the Cowboys. And then week 16, same thing against the Dolphins. Week 17, similar thing against the Lions. Man, I'm okay with this. I think you should do this. And I actually think Walter has CeeDee Lamb ahead of Tyreek Hill rest of season. And I think this is a big reason why, because we do account for the rest of season schedules in our rest of season rankings in the Walter Picks app. And wow, yeah, you look at the rankings, the projections here, the matchups here. I mean, for Tyreek Hill and the Jets, the Cowboys, the Ravens, it's not even close, not even comparable. You absolutely should take CeeDee Lamb over Tyreek Hill rest of season, and definitely in this spot where you have Dak to stack with and you have the round one bye. Ravens defense good tonight. No, sorry, I would not play the Ravens defense. They are good. They are one of the best defenses in the league. I don't really love them in fantasy tonight, though. I do think the Bengals absolutely are capable of putting up points against an elite defense. They're one of the pass-heaviest teams in the league. They are as healthy as they've been all season, obviously without T. Higgins, but I'm mostly talking about Joe Burrow. And I think a lot of the metrics and stats around the Bengals are a little misleading because really the first half of the season so far, Joe Burrow was not at 100%, and he's been at 100% the last couple of games, and we've seen the Bengals go extremely pass-heavy in those games. Guys, the last few games, let me pull the game odds here for Joe Burrow so we can look at it on the YouTube Live, but the last few games, Joe Burrow's been hot, and I don't know if an elite defense is going to slow him down. Against the Texans, he throws for 347, a week after throwing for 348 against the Bills, and he threw for 283 against the Ravens. He's been over 7.9 yards per pass attempt each of the last 3 weeks. He was under 7 yards per pass attempt every single week before the bye. You can just see Joe Burrow's healthy games and his not healthy games when you look at the game logs like this. He's been a top 7 fantasy QB 3 straight weeks. And yeah, this is the toughest matchup he's had since he played the Ravens back in week 2 when he had 16 points and he threw for 222 yards, but he was not as healthy as he is now in that game. I do think he'll play better in this game, especially when you consider Marlon Humphrey is out. The top corner for the Ravens is out tonight. And just look at the pass attempts here, man. 40 pass attempts, 44 pass attempts. Joe Burrow's thrown the ball 84 times in his last 2 games. You don't see that for quarterbacks these days. Is my receiving core good for the playoffs? Kupp, Amon-Ra, Olave, Deontay, Devonta Smith. Yeah, Deontay is definitely the worst piece there, but you definitely can feel good about the rest of those guys. Keaton Mitchell or Gus Edwards? Yeah, I'm going Keaton Mitchell over Gus Edwards tonight. I like the ceiling for Keaton Mitchell more. Gus Edwards is a little bit more likely to score a touchdown. He does have that goal line role, but I don't like Gus Edwards in fantasy because Lamar also will take some of those red zone carries, and Gus Edwards does not catch passes. He actually had his best receiving role of his career this season, but he's not a consistently reliable receiver out of the backfield. Burrow or Tua? I'm going Burrow over Tua. I'm playing Tank Dell over Keaton Mitchell for sure. Hey, Sam, I'm 5-5 in PPR, starting Spears and Cook right now. Who's a good running back to target that I could move someone like Addison Marquise or Amari Cooper for? Yeah, so I posted a video last week about some running backs that I like to trade for. And honestly, I do think Tony Pollard is a good running back still to try to trade for. This is a good matchup for him this week. I don't think he's an auto start still in all spots this week because it might be a blowout again, and he hasn't seen huge volume in blowout games, which makes a lot of sense from a real NFL perspective. But I think Tony Pollard's one of the most interesting buy low candidates in all of fantasy right now. He's still top 3 in the NFL in red zone touches. He has not scored since week 1. Absolutely ridiculous stuff. When you put those two facts together, Tony Pollard is top 3 in the NFL in red zone touches. He's touched the ball 3rd most, 2nd most in the league within the red zone, and he has not scored since week 1. And his team has been absolutely on fire. His offensive line is solid. His offense is solid. His offense is scoring points, and he just is not. I think that will change, and he does have a pretty interesting schedule down the stretch too. I also do like trying to trade for Achane too. Hey, Sam, how are you? I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Hope all of you are doing fantastic in the live stream right now. As always, guys, the best way you can support me, it's by checking out the Walter Picks app in the iOS and Android app store. If you're watching live on YouTube, you're seeing the Walter Picks app game logs on the screen right now. If you're watching live on TikTok, go to the TikTok bio, download the app. If I don't get your start sit, it's the best place to go for start sit advice. It's the best place to go for trade advice and transaction advice, trade, everything. Everything you need is in the Walter Picks app. And it's not just fantasy anymore. We're expanding our sports betting insights, our optimizer insights as well to help you crush DFS in betting also. So check it out. It's free to download. If you use code Sam, you'll also get a 100% free 7-day trial. All right, Sam or TJ? Sam Laporta or TJ Hawkinson? Yeah, I think you kind of have to go. I think you kind of have to go Hawk. Let me pull this up here. Yeah, it's close actually. They're back-to-back here in the Walter Pick Stat rankings, but you can't really bench Hawk right now. And we also don't know if Justin Jefferson's going to be back yet. Pick 3, Adams, Puka, Waddle, Deontay Johnson, Jefferson. If he plays, I subscribe to the app. Daniel, thanks, man. Seriously, subscribing to the app is like the number one way you could possibly support me. Daniel, so I do appreciate you, man. This is not a Thursday night question, so I'm going to answer it quickly because this is a Sunday morning question that I'll get to Sunday morning. But I do think that Deontay Johnson needs to be benched here. And yeah, Jefferson plays, you got to play Jefferson, and you probably bench Adams if Jefferson plays in this spot. Lawrence or Dobbs? Yeah, you got to start Dobbs this week for sure. Definitely bench Trevor Lawrence. Does Saquon Barkley still have value as of now? I was saying it on the Sunday morning live stream. I'll say it again. Guys, Saquon Barkley is going down with the ship. He's going down with the ship. It is so hard to be relevant in fantasy football when your offense is completely incapable of sustaining drives and scoring points. And that is the situation Saquon Barkley is in. He's in the worst possible situation. He's at least getting elite usage, but his offense cannot sustain drives. His offense cannot score points. It almost doesn't matter who they're playing against. For as long as DeVito is starting, Saquon Barkley is going to be really, really tough to trust. A Boyd, a solid flex. Boyd is an okay flex. I think he's a high floor but low ceiling flex. I'm okay with him in PPR. I think he'll go close to 10 to 15 PPR points tonight, but I don't think he's got a huge chance to go over 20. Really, the only Bengals I'm very excited about tonight for fantasy, it is Joe Burrow and it is Jamar Chase. On the Ravens side, there's also really only 2 players I'm very, very confident and very excited about. It is Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. The guys that I'm kind of in the middle about that I think are decent starts, but either have a low floor or a low ceiling, Zay Flowers. I don't think the ceiling is that high for Zay Flowers. He's got an okay floor. I still think the ceiling is a bit high just because we know he's dynamic with the ball in his hands, but he has only scored 1 touchdown this season, and it seems like Odell Beckham is the preferred red zone option over Zay Flowers. Tyler Boyd, I think, is a kind of a similar situation. He is a high floor PPR option, but doesn't have that high of a ceiling. Joe Mixon is a extremely low ceiling play tonight. I'd prefer to bench Joe Mixon if I can tonight. I do not see him going over 20 points. We were just talking about it, but there have not been very many good running back games against the Ravens. They're missing their top corner tonight. The Ravens are going to throw extremely heavy tonight. They're also underdogs. The Bengals are going to throw extremely heavy tonight. The Bengals are likely going to be playing from behind. That's not all good news for Joe Mixon. At least he has some of a receiving role. That's good. But Joe Mixon is very unlikely he goes over 20 points. The only 2 running backs to do that had either 30 carries or 9 catches. That is not going to happen for Mixon tonight. Absolutely not. Would you start Keaton tonight or Deontay versus Cleveland in the flex? I'm absolutely starting Keaton Mitchell over Deontay Johnson. I do not know how we can trust Deontay Johnson right now. And I do like the ceiling for Deontay. Hadley, what's going on, man? Odell is scoring tonight. Book it. Yeah, he scored back-to-back games now. He's starting to heat up. That's what we call heating up from where I'm from. And Odell Beckham Jr., he could be on fire tonight with a 3rd straight TD. He is starting to heat up a bit. And the snap percentage was actually down a bit last week, which was interesting in a hashtag revenge game for Odell against the Browns. I wondered, though, how much of that was giving him some rest because they knew they had to play on Thursday night. I do think he'll continue to be a pretty big red zone threat for the Ravens. So I don't hate that call at all. I love the app, Sam. Thanks, man. Lamar or CJ Stroud. Yeah, if you have Patrick Mahomes, then you can bench Lamar. Otherwise, you got to be starting Lamar Jackson in fantasy. And I don't know how many teams out there have Lamar and Mahomes. That would be pretty elite if that's a super flex league. Otherwise, it's completely meaningless. But yeah, you got to start Lamar. Basically, every single person that has Lamar needs to start Lamar. Should I start Keaton Mitchell? Yes, you should start Keaton Mitchell if you're feeling risky tonight. If you want a high ceiling play tonight, look no further than Keaton Mitchell. Keaton Mitchell has the ability to literally not get touched on some of his plays, and he can score no matter where he is on the field. He has serious Devon Achane vibes. Start 2, Mixon, Connor Robinson Jr., and I don't know who Mr. is. I'm just going to ignore that one because I don't know who that is, Justin. But Mixon, Connor Robinson, yeah, I think I would bench Mixon here. I'm playing James Conner over Joe Mixon for sure, and I think Brian Robinson makes a lot of sense against the Giants. Also, the Commanders should be pretty run heavy. The fantasy dude, man, how's it going? Hope you are doing well. Burrow or Dobbs? Yeah, man, starting Josh Dobbs is never going to feel right It's going to be a while, I think, till it feels right. But I think this is right. I think it's okay to start Josh Dobbs over Joe Burrow. Let's see what Walter says about this one too. And the real reason is the rushing. It's really the rushing. You get no rushing really from Joe Burrow. He actually has been running a little bit more, but certainly not to the level of Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs, I think, is averaging the third most rushing yards per game in the NFL. And yeah, look at this. Walter actually has these graphs really close together. Actually, a higher ceiling, though, and a higher floor for Josh Dobbs. A better median projection here for Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs has now had 5 games over 23 fantasy points. Absolutely elite stuff here from Dobbs, and the floor is high because the rushing volume is great. Plus, he has a pretty interesting matchup against Denver. And Denver on paper looks like a good matchup, but man, they've been a tale of two halves of the season so far. And we look at these rushing stats, and Josh Dobbs, 6 carries, 37 rushing yards per game. That is, I think, third, maybe even second behind Lamar among quarterbacks. So I think I probably would go Dobbs, but it's a close call, man. And starting Dobbs over Burrow is never going to feel right to me. Sam, I traded Javonte for Pollard. Thoughts on this trade? I like both these guys a decent amount rest of season, Harry, but I've been in on trading for Pollard, buying low on Pollard. I never think that 1-for-1 positional trades make that much sense. There's some cases, like we were just talking CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill. If you're stacking CeeDee Lamb and Dak and you already are in the fantasy playoffs, I think that makes sense. But 1-for-1 trades, how do both sides convince themselves this is helping both sides? Those are the types of trades that I think should get done in fantasy. But yeah, I think I probably would take Pollard over Javonte there. Hey, Sam, what are your thoughts on Saquon rest of season? Yeah, Colin, I was just talking about Saquon. He's going down with the ship, man. He's going down with the ship. And I think you need to sell while you can, if you can, because Saquon Barkley is on a team that is incapable of sustaining drives, incapable of scoring points. That's not the team you want your running back on. Burrow, Tua, or Murray. Yeah, I think I would go Murray over Burrow and over Tua. I do like this game environment for Kyler Murray this week. I'm going Burrow over Tua, and I'm going Kyler over Burrow, just barely. But yeah, I do like the spot for him against the Texans this week, especially with how that game went for the Texans the last couple of weeks. Sam, need help. I got you. D-Hop or Boyd to the flex PPR. Yeah, so no, this is another one of these. And I bet it will actually show in this comparison, if we do in the Walter Picks app real quick, between Boyd and DeAndre Hopkins. You got to ask yourself, do you want the boom bust, high ceiling, but high risk option in DeAndre Hopkins? Or do you want the safe, high floor, but low ceiling play in Tyler Boyd? And yeah, look how different these graphs are. Now, let me shift the app here to the other side of the screen. This is what safe looks like here with Tyler Boyd. He's got over a 50% chance to go over 11 PPR points. DeAndre Hopkins, meanwhile, his ceiling is so much higher. You got to go Hopkins, man. You got to go Hopkins. And at least the target volume has been good for Hop. He's coming off a brutal game. The Titans are coming off a brutal game where the offensive line got absolutely smashed. I mean, it looked like a team that we just cannot trust. Matt, you don't need to spam in the YouTube live. Derrick Henry or Tony Pollard. Yeah, I think I'm okay going with Pollard with them playing I don't know, actually. This one's really, really close. Let's actually do this comparison quick. I was certainly right, by the way, about benching Derrick Henry last week. I got so much pushback on that one on the Sunday morning live, and that one was spot on. You got to be very careful with running backs against the Bucs. I think CMC is probably the one exception this week, but that was an easy call, honestly, with Henry against the Bucs. That was an absolutely stone cold worst possible matchup other than playing the Eagles for Derrick Henry. And wow, yeah, it is Derrick Henry over Tony Pollard. It's a good matchup on paper for Pollard, but if this game's a blowout, we've seen that the Cowboys are not going to give significant usage to Pollard in blowout games. Flowers or Keaton Mitchell? This one's really interesting. I think I'd probably side with Keaton Mitchell over Zay Flowers. It's absolutely close. Absolutely, it's close. Keaton Mitchell, guys, is the high-risk, high-reward play tonight for sure. Keaton Mitchell is giving off serious Devon Achane vibes. Keaton Mitchell is averaging over 10 yards per touch. That means, on average, every time Keaton Mitchell touches the ball, the Ravens get a first down. And when you are that efficient, you earn your touches. He only had 3 carries last week, 2 catches last week. He still goes over 12.5 PPR points, finishes the game with 14 PPR points, finishes a top 20 running back. Last week, guys, he touched the ball 5 times. What happens tonight when he touches the ball 10 or even 15 times? We're talking about a legitimate high ceiling here, even in a kind of average matchup against a decent Bengals defense. I'm starting Keaton Mitchell in a lot of spots. I'm starting Keaton Mitchell over Joe Mixon. And I can feel some of you pull back there. Joe Mixon is going to touch the ball more than Keaton Mitchell tonight. Absolutely. But I prefer to start the guy that has a higher ceiling than the guy that has a higher floor. That's my personality. If you want to lock in 10 PPR points, you go with Joe Mixon. But if you want to give yourself at 20 plus PPR points, you go with Keaton Mitchell. And that's the same reason I'm playing him over Zay Flowers. It's the same reason I'm playing him over Tyler Boyd. That's the same reason I'm playing him over Gus Edwards. All those guys I'd argue are a little bit safer than Keaton Mitchell. But I do think that we're going to see the comments from the coach come to fruition tonight. Keaton Mitchell is going to get the ball more. And man, this guy's absolutely lightning fast. Let me pull up the numbers here again for Keaton Mitchell. And just in terms of his sheer speed, this is a big reason why he gives off Devon Achane vibes. The dude ran a 99th percentile 40-yard dash, a 4.37 second 40-yard dash. That does rank in the 99th percentile among players at the NFL Combine. Absolutely crazy stuff there from Keaton Mitchell. Burrow or Stroud? Yeah, I am going Burrow over Stroud. I'm playing Puka over Mixon easily. Burrow or Goff? I'm going Burrow over Goff. Will Devon Achane play on Sunday? Yes, it does seem like Achane's playing on Sunday. And yes, you absolutely need to start them. Hey, Sam, you are the man. Thanks, Alvin. I appreciate you. Appreciate you being tuned in. Shout out to everybody in this live stream. Seriously, guys, look forward to these live streams all week. We're live every Thursday night, every Sunday morning. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube, hit the follow button on TikTok so you don't miss these lives in the future. All right, start Saquon Barkley versus mid-Washington defense or Devontae Williams against Minnesota. Yes, you got to bench Saquon. You just need to. He's going down with the ship. His offense cannot score points, even in a matchup against a decent matchup against a bad defense. This will determine if I bench Baltimore defense tonight and play Washington defense. Yes, play Washington defense. They're playing the Giants. This is the best possible matchup for a defense. And I care about matchups, generally speaking. I care about matchups more than I care about how good a defense is when it comes to starting fantasy football defenses. Because there's specific offenses we can just exploit with fantasy defenses. And one thing I think makes a lot of sense to do, guys, on that thought, because we are heading towards the fantasy trade deadline very, very soon. And I do think this is worth mentioning because I think this is one of the bigger edges you can get in fantasy that I think is overlooked by the vast majority of people is if you know you're going to be in the fantasy playoffs, or even if at this point you think there's a good chance to make the fantasy playoffs and you don't need to like really focus on making sure you win enough games to get in. There's like a good enough chance you're going to get in. You need to look ahead to the fantasy playoff weeks. And one of the ways that makes a lot of sense to do this is look at the defenses. What is your defense plan in the fantasy playoffs? Look who is playing the Giants in the fantasy playoffs. Go get those defenses. The first week in the fantasy playoffs, the Giants are up against the New Orleans Saints. That's week 15. Go at the Saints and stash them. They play the Eagles in week 16. They're going to be hard to get, but the Rams are available in a lot of leagues. That's who the Giants play in the fantasy football finals. Guys, the Giants cannot score points. They cannot keep possessions, sustain drives. This is the defense matchup you want. I definitely think the Rams and Saints are good defenses to go and stash if you're going to be in the fantasy playoffs. I think these defenses will win leagues, and I am stashing them in my leagues where I already know I am in the playoffs. Keaton or Pacheco, PPR. Yeah, I'm absolutely going Keaton over Pacheco. I think Pacheco's a must bench this week against the Eagles. The Eagles are the stone cold toughest run defense in the NFL, and their secondary sucks. So it's a pass funnel defense, and you got to think Mahomes and the Chiefs off the bye are going to take advantage of that. Singletary or Keaton? Yeah, I think you do got to go Singletary over Keaton with the usage Singletary got, assuming Dameon Pierce doesn't play. And it does seem like Dameon Pierce is not going to play again. Trade Amon-Ra and Amari for A.J. Brown. Tucker, it's a fair trade. It's fine. Amari is definitely not a guy you can trust now with Sean out for the season. I do prefer A.J. Brown over Amon-Ra rest of the season, but it's not that far off. Mitchell or Schultz? Yeah, I hate starting two tight ends. Don't do it to yourself. I would start Mitchell over Schultz. All right, I'm seeing some more comments about the free player prop of the night. Guys, the free player prop tonight, it is Jamar Chase, over 80.5 receiving yards. I am 18-5 on the free player props. Where we gotta stop the skid. We went 0 for 1 on Sunday. We can't miss 2 in a row. We're taking Jamar Chase tonight. Let me pull up the Jamar Chase game logs again on the YouTube Live. On the TikTok Live, you're seeing a screenshot of the player prop evaluator from the Walkter Picks app. This is a free app that you can find in the bio. If you use code SAM, you get a free 7-day free trial to access it. Premium features like the one you're seeing behind me on the TikTok Live. Jamar Chase, not at 100% health last week. That context is definitely important for this player prop tonight. He had just 6 targets. This was the fewest targets Jamar Chase has seen this entire season. Actually, if you go back to all of last year, this was the fewest targets Jamar Chase has seen since week 4 of last season. not at full health last week. Didn't really matter, though. He had 5 catches, 124 yards, and a touchdown. And I think he's going to be healthier in this spot tonight. And I think the Bengals are going to throw extensively tonight against a Ravens defense that's elite against the run. They've been great against the pass too, but they're also without their top corner tonight. And the Ravens are favored by 4 points at home. So the Bengals are likely to be playing from behind, like this one for that reason. But even if the Bengals somehow are playing from ahead in this game, which I don't think they will be, the Bengals have shown they're willing to be one of the most pass-heavy teams regardless of game script. They are number 1 in the NFL in pass rate above expectation. It's them and the Commanders that are just throwing constantly. The Cowboys are starting to join them. The Chiefs are starting to join them in terms of pass rate over expectation. But absolutely, Jamar Chase is in a good spot tonight in a pass-heavy game script for the Bengals. That's the free player prop. Lock it in, over 80.5 receiving yards. As always, guys, if you haven't tried the Pick'em game on Sleeper yet, if you use code Walter on Sleeper, you'll get a 100% deposit match. You can find the Joe Mixon prop there. They got discounts for free users, half a yard. Every single free user gets a half-yard prop when they sign up too. I traded Henry and Sutton for Bijan and Puka. My receivers, Henry and Sutton for Bijan and Puka. Yeah, love that trade. Absolutely love that trade. I think it's a win-win. Both players are getting an absolute W. My receivers are Tyreek McLaurin and Kirk, and RB's Achane and Kanye. You won, Hudson. These are 2 players. If you look at my last 2 videos, or 2 of my last videos on TikTok. Today, I posted a video talking about Puka Nacua and why it makes sense to trade for him. Last week, I posted a video about running backs I'd trade for. Bijan was on that list. That was before he had one of his best games of the season last week. I think he's even better to trade for now after what we saw last week. But yeah, absolutely, this is a W. I would take Bijan over Henry rest of the season. I'm taking Puka over Sutton rest of the season. I actually think this is a pretty big fleece, if you ask me. Sutton or Boyd? Yeah, I think I probably would go Sutton over Boyd. Sutton had significant volume last week. Jerry Jeudy also dealing with a hip injury right now. Pacheco or McBride? I would go McBride over Pacheco, even though I hate starting 2 tight ends. I do not want to start Pacheco this week at all against the Eagles. Amon-Ra for Gibbs and Adam Thielen. If you need a running back, this is a pretty fair trade, but I'd probably lean towards the Amon-Ra side of this trade. Mixon or Derrick Henry? Yeah, I'd go Derrick Henry over Mixon tonight. This is a tough matchup for Mixon, guys. Mixon is not going over 20 points tonight, almost definitely. We've only seen 2 running backs go over 20 points against the Ravens, and one of them was Zach Moss when he had 30 carries, and the other one was Jahmyr Gibbs when he had 9 receptions. Joe Burrow's not doing either of those things tonight. Joe Burrow's going to go – let me pull up the Joe Burrow game logs. They look very consistent. He's been one of the most consistent running backs in all fantasy in terms of volume that he gets every week. And in terms of scoring, too, he's going between 10 and 15 points in almost every single game. We saw 2 of his last 3 games, he did go over 15 points. He is not cleared. Joe Mixon has not cleared 20 points in a single game this season. We're talking PPR leagues, and this is someone getting near the top of the league usage numbers. I like Mixon's under tonight. It's not the official free player prop of the live stream, but I do like his unders, the rushing plus reception or the rushing under. Mixon is 19th, 13.3 PPR points per game this season, despite some pretty elite volume numbers. Joe Mixon is seeing the 7th highest snap share among running backs this season. He's run the 9th most routes among running backs this season. He has the 5th most red zone touches among running backs this season. He has the 7th most carries among running backs this season. He's 19th in points per game. Just kind of a gross, sluggish fantasy option, but a high floor option, which, you can do much worse than a high floor option. I do think he probably gets near 10 points tonight, despite the tough matchup, because the usage has been really consistent. He's been over a 70% snap share every single game since week 2. He's seeing targets every single week, at least 3 targets every single game since week 5. So the touches should be there. He's getting over 10 carries almost every single game. He is clearly the top running back on the Bengals, but not a good matchup at all. Again, only 2 running backs over 20 points against the Ravens, and they both saw significant volume, which Joe Mixon is not going to see in this game. So yeah, I don't love Mixon this week for that reason. All right, pick 2, Puka, if healthy, McLaurin, Kirk, PPR. Yeah, it's definitely Puka, and I think it's close here between McLaurin and Kirk. I lean towards Kirk, I think. McLaurin against the Giants, it is a good matchup. The Commanders do really spread the ball around a lot, though. Burrow or Kyler this week? I do lean Kyler Murray over Joe Burrow this week. All right, let me wrap up my final thoughts on this game. I do think the Ravens win the game. I'm taking them. The spread was -3.5 when I started the live. I think it's actually -4 now at home for the Ravens. I do like the Ravens to win and cover the spread. Why do I bench the Ravens defense tonight? Because I think the Bengals offense is going to still put up points tonight. I think that they have the type of offense that can succeed against a really good Ravens defense. They're going to be extremely pass heavy. Marlon Humphrey's out the top corner for the Ravens. I do think that matters. And I think that the Bengals passing attack is elite enough to overcome an elite defense. I always side with the elite offense over the elite defense in today's NFL. That's why I took Mahomes over the Eagles in the Super Bowl. When everyone thought the Eagles defense, so good, historically good defensive line for the Eagles. Oh my God, the Eagles defense, they're going to win the Super Bowl because they have an elite defense and elite offense. But actually, it didn't matter at all because the Chiefs offense was too elite. It completely nullified the elite defense for the Eagles. I'm not saying we're going to see that entirely for the Bengals tonight. I'm not even saying the Bengals are on that same level as the Chiefs, but I don't think they're that far off. And I do think that the Bengals can overcome elite defenses. I think they can put up points tonight. That's why I would start a defense like the Commanders, for example, against the Giants, because the Giants just have no chance to score points almost no matter the defense they're playing with their offensive situation. I prefer to just target bad offenses with my fantasy defenses rather than elite defenses against playing elite offenses, if that makes sense. Should I trade Allen for Mahomes, better QB for the playoffs? Yeah, I'm okay with this. I do think Mahomes is going to win leagues for teams that can make the playoffs with Patrick Mahomes. He has a tendency to heat up down the stretch. He's going to completely destroy, throttle the Patriots in week 15. He'll crush the Raiders in week 16. I really like the spot for him against the Bengals in week 17 too. Let's look at the Josh Allen playoff schedule though, because I think he gets matched with the Dolphins here and the Chargers and the Cowboys. I don't know if Mahomes' schedule is honestly better. Looking at this, I actually might go Josh Allen over Mahomes here. Burrow or Goff starting. Yeah, I'm going with Burrow over Goff. All right, guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, we're going to wrap up the rest of the live stream over on TikTok. The next 13 minutes of the live stream are going to be on TikTok. I appreciate all of you. Time is the most valuable thing we have, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If I didn't get to your start sit, you know where to go. It is the Walter Picks app, which is on the screen right now on the YouTube Live. The link is in the TikTok bio. Please tell me before you go, do you think Hudson is worth playing tonight in a tight end premium league? Chad, you got to find someone better than Hudson tonight. The TikTok is at Walter Picks. You can find me live there at Walter Picks. Yeah, I would play Freiermuth. I think he's going to play this week, but that's definitely not a certainty. I think I would go Adam Thielen over Zay Flowers and have PPR. It's definitely close. But I would go Thielen. All right, guys, YouTube, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss these YouTube lives in the future. We'll be live Sunday morning at TikTok Live. Come to the TikTok Live if you still want to see the rest of live at Walter Picks on TikTok. Thank you, everybody, and good luck.